If you enjoy what you hear here today, please consider supporting me on my Patreon page. Every dollar helps, and you get to see content that you won't see here. Chapter 48. The Royal Sisters. Canterlot. Broadsword stood atop one of the walls surrounding the royal castle, looking out over the city spanning lower down the mountain. With everything that had been happening in Equestria as of late, the more morbid side of his brain would have been forgiven for imagining an unstoppable changeling swarm tearing away the surface beneath the city and watching the capital of Equestria tumble down into the land below. That was definitely low down on his list of ways to go out. Falling down a mountain among countless debris and fellow corpses, with next to no chance of ever being found and identified for burial. What would be the point? He'd already be buried, and he doubted that the Empress gave a shit. The captain of the Solar Guard gave a huff, using a hoof to rub some of the weariness from his eyes. He scolded that morbid part of his brain, deciding that he would be of better use imagining the brighter scenarios that could occur. He liked to think those scenarios would be the more likely ones, but once again, the morbid side of his brain spoke out in protest, this time with some half-hearted assistance from the logical side, too. Broadsword sighed. He was alone on that particular part of the battlements, having just dismissed a couple of young guards ponies to their duties. Had he ever been that young? He supposed he had. Too bad he gave that part of himself up so soon to take on a no-nonsense type. At least until a trip to a secret terrorist lair taught him to enjoy what fleeting life he had a little more. In line with that, he had to wonder how things might have been different if he hadn't made himself such an easy impersonation for Serpens. What if he had stopped the infiltrator before he left his mark on Queen Twilight Sparkle? In truth, he didn't think about it all that much, being that it was ancient history by that point. But times like the one in which he found himself were perfect condition for prodding old wounds, however unpleasant. What if he had stopped Serpens before things got underway? Would Crudelis have still murdered Queen Vespula? And how would that have affected things going forwards? Longshot, Draco, Chrysalis. So many ponies and changelings who had fallen victim to the ongoing conflict resulting from that one event setting everything into motion. Would they have still died? But then again, would he have even been able to change anything at all? It wasn't like he could spy on alternate timelines at will, and such questions were things he would never have the answer to. So there's no point in thinking about it, he muttered to himself, preparing to depart to the battlements and move on to his many other outstanding duties.
There you are,
Scarlet Snow stated as she finished her climb up the steps, the 8-year-old colt trotting alongside her.
I've been looking everywhere for you.
I'm on duty. There's only so many places I'm going to be, he replied. What's the matter?
We've barely spoken to each other since the night before last. I've heard about Manhattan and everything else. Hey, who hasn't by now? As the captain of the Solar Guard, I can scarcely imagine how much pressure you're under.
I'm handling it. It's part of the job, he stated. And I'm sorry we haven't spoken lately, but with everything that's going on. Scarlet held up a huff.
I never said I blamed you for anything. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. Yeah, but Mom's been kinda sad since yesterday.
Valiant sheepishly spoke up. I see. Broadsword gave another sigh. He already knew why that would specifically be. You still had friends stationed at Fort Hurricane, right? I suppose they didn't make it.
1 or 2 did,
she responded.
But, yeah, the rest didn't make it. Ponies I knew since basic training. Gone in a moment.
Broadsword gave his wife a comforting nuzzle. Are you going to be okay?
I will be,
she assured her husband.
I was a UP, remember? Handling loss isn't just something the guard are trained for.
You're not in the EUP anymore, he pointed out. She sighed, looking out over the battlement just as Broadsword had been a few minutes prior.
Some things never leave you. For better or worse. Are you alright?
Valiant asked both of his parents.
I don't like it when you're sad.
Both his parents shot him a smile, Broadsword patting his son on the head. We'll be fine. Your mother and I are a tough bunch, which just makes you all the stronger. Valiant protested at the head patting, but puffed up with pride at the comment.
Yeah, I'll be the toughest guard ever.
Scarlet chuckled.
Just don't forget some finesse to go along with that toughness. What?
Valiant asked.
It means that being a guard isn't always about pure muscle,
she explained, shooting her husband a wry smile.
Which, many years ago, is why I was the one rescuing your father and not the other way around.
You and countless others, including Princess Celestia and Queen Chrysalis, he deadpanned in response. And I remember you coming away from that with a broken leg. And on top of that, I saved Vladimir. Scarlet snorted.
Like a broken leg was going to stop me. They had to force me to get medical care.
So much for your brains over muscle argument, he remarked with amusement. Scarlet puffed up her cheeks.
I was full of adrenaline. I didn't even realize it was broken.
Is this a bad time? Facade asked, an amused Cardus limping alongside him. No, not at all, Broadsword denied. Just a friendly debate, nothing much. I heard the pun about broken legs and adrenaline, Cardus commented. But I can trump that. I have a crippled body, and I'd wager I'd still beat you in a fight, Broadsword. Broadsword responded with a deadpan look. Right. I'm sure you could. Anyway, Facade interrupted, apparently eager to move the conversation onwards. Your princess sent us to get you. We're all wanted in the war room. All of us? Broadsword questioned with a frown, and with no small amount of dread. What's happened now? Your princess is a mare of a mission, that's what, Facade responded. She seems to have the idea that she can take out the Empress pretty soon. Huh? Yeah. Your element bearers came back to the city with Queen Twalate's dragon assistant, Spike. Now the princess wants to talk tactics, and Cardus here is going to tell them exactly where to find the Hive. Rendering their perception filter useless, Cardus added in. And with the majority of the swarm here, there may not be so many held back, I'd hope. You'd hope? Yeah, well, we'll need a lot of that, Cardus responded. We still need to collect Vladimir. Come on. Broadsword nodded and then turned to his family. Sorry. Princess's orders. We'll talk more tonight.
Ever the busy stallion,
she commented in turn, giving him a quick kiss on the cheek.
Go on. Don't let me keep you.
After finishing up his farewells, Broadsword fell into step beside the two changelings who had come to collect him. Vladimir also fell into step not so long after that, Broadsword having known where to quickly find him, and so they all then headed up to the war room as requested. Do you really think you could make it up to the Hive? Shining Armor asked worriedly.
That is not in question, and we know many spells to keep us concealed against the land on which we travel,
Celestia answered.
Both in the day and during the night,
Luna finished up.
And with the swarm occupied, it should make things all the easier. Worry not, Prince Armor. Our journey to the Hive will be swift and precise.
When the meeting had begun, the princess had adjusted the projected map of the region of the world where she knew the Hive was roughly located. It had been a simple matter for Cardus to then point out the exact location, and the princesses had even allowed him to create a small little representation of the Hive on said map. I still feel like I and some guards should accompany you, Shining complained.
It's best to keep the group as small as possible,
Celestia rebutted.
And no offense, but the Empress would kill any such guards with utmost ease.
Shining grumbled at that, but didn't argue further.
So shall that leave Shining in charge in the meantime? Surely not Prince Blueblood.
Cadence inquired.
Neither,
Celestia responded.
I trust it won't be any trouble, niece.
Cadence's eyes narrowed.
I'm an alicorn too. I may not be 1,000 years old, but I'm not unfamiliar with my magic. And Equestria needs a princess should we fall,
Celestia argued back.
No, you're more so needed here. And you can help spread the word that we're simply going to another city to help boost morale there. I'll leave the details to you.
What about taking a changeling as a guide, at least? Broadsword suggested. It would help you prevent getting lost. Vladimir agreed.
Our sense of direction is not so impaired,
Celestia rebuked.
Cardus is not in a condition to make such a dangerous journey. Young Facade hasn't got the experience. And on top of that, any and all changelings are highly susceptible to the Empress's hive mind assimilation.
In short, it's too dangerous, Cardus summed up. So what are the rest of us meant to do in the meantime? Facade inquired.
Much the same, I would imagine,
Luna replied.
You do not need us to direct your lives. That responsibility is in your own hooves and always has been.
You've never directed my life. I'm not your subject, Facade pointed out. I just want to help if I can. Cardus is the same way. Agreed. But if I got into a fight, Panacea will never let me hear the end of it, Cardus stated. Nor the Queen, for that matter. They both hate it when I overexert my battered body. Having a wife of my own, I can somewhat sympathize, Broadsword jokingly remarked.
Don't you agree with them?
Cadence warned Shining Armor, spotting her own husband's smirk.
Back on topic. I'm still not sure I like staying behind. Equestria needs you, Cadence,
Celestia stressed.
This is important. Please.
Cadence didn't respond for a moment, but then gave out a relenting sigh.
Fine. But you owe me, Auntie. I'll bear that in mind,
Celestia said.
We shall depart the first thing in the morning, the moment I raise the sun into the sky. Once we reach the Hive, we shall incapacitate the hopefully small vanguard there, non-lethally given what our success would mean, and then confront the Empress. My shadow form should help with incapacitating the guards, Luna added in. It's a good thing that Nightmare Knight has allowed me to stay in practice with that spell.
The Empress should fear the coming nightmare of the moon, Vladimir muttered under his breath.
The Empress is powerful, but so are we,
Celestia stated.
I suppose we shall all be tested in the days to come. We shall make haste, and with any luck, return with Twilight and the rest of her kind freed to make their own decisions and carry out their own lives once more.
One more thing, Vladimir spoke up. Fort Hurricane and Ponyville were both morale-shattering losses. Victories at Las Pegasus and Van Hoover, and the ongoing work to hunt down the remnants of those attack forces have helped. But with Manhattan's brutality, things are at their lowest.
Your point?
Luna asked her captain of the guard. All these attacks seemed geared towards destroying morale, don't you think? She's trying to break the spirits of you ponies, Facade said in agreement. Even with that business with Queen Crudelis and some of these other threats you people have faced over the past however many years, war is still largely a foreign concept for the majority of the populace.
An astute observation,
Celestia complimented the changeling.
A populace without resistance would be far simpler to add into the Empress's coming empire. Resistance would be most troubling for her.
If we were to surrender today, you can bet your tail ponies would resist nationwide, Shining Armor protested. We're hardly beaten.
No, we're not,
Luna agreed.
But it is the Empress's intent.
Logically, the next step would be Canterlot, Cardus pointed out. Take out the capital, have it tumble off the mountain for all Equestria to see. And with that, take out all 3 princesses and leave Equestria without its leaders. The EUP would be in chaos. Ponies would flee left, right, and center. In a way, it's no different to a changeling having their hive connection suddenly severed. Canterlot falling from the mountain. For Broadsword, he couldn't help but think back to his thoughts from earlier. The element bearers are here too. If they were also killed, the message would be clear that no matter where one runs, the storm will always catch up to you in the end. It wouldn't necessarily be overnight, but it would mark Equestria's end. Vladimir finished.
Another reason to end this as soon as possible,
Celestia stated.
But the city is not undefended. Shining Armor, the moment this meeting is concluded, you are to raise your shield around the city until the crisis is done. Cadence can help you maintain it.
Shining Armor nodded. I can do that. We're already running extra drills. We can defend the city should it come to it, Broadsword said. To the very end. Luna frowned darkly.
Then let us hope that the end is in our favor.
It was a sight they had all seen before, but not for a very long time. The wedding of Princess Cadence and then Captain Shining Armor was a long ago memory, but there nonetheless. That event had introduced the changelings to the world, and so things had come around full circle. All eyes looked up at the castle as an impossibly bright bolt of magenta magic pierced up into the skies above Canterlot. From that bolt of magic, a barrier began to form, a massive sphere of pure energy that soon encompassed the entire city. Already fearful ponies became even more so, the shield signifying the very real threat of attack. And so Canterlot was completely covered in Shining Armor's shield spell, ready for the worst. The royal sisters prepared to do what needed to be done, for the sake of all their little ponies.